Let me tell you the story of Duiwel de Wet, an apprentice stoker on the SAR. He lived in a room with a budgie and a rat above the funeral parlor in the town of the R. People called him Duiwel because his hair was shocking red. The rat sat on his shoulder and the budgie on his head. Now Duiwel de Wet was tall and thin, with orange hair and a pale white skin. It was often said that Duiwel de Wet looked exactly like a filter cigarette. I'm afraid old Duiwel was a lonely boy, and watching videos was his only joy. With his budgie and his rat and a fridge full of beer, a pile of videos to pass the time. His world was filled with guns and girls. Life was exciting in the world of crime. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. You recognize that theme? I stole it from Shaka Zulu. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. He recognizes. So one quiet night in the town of the R, Duiwel fell asleep watching VCR. He dreamt a dream as he lay on his bed that he starred in a video that was going through his head. Yes, yeah, was Duiwel in a brand new movie where the cars were fast, the chicks were groovy. Nothing was impossible, you must understand, because Duiwel walked around with a gun in his hand. He robbed a bank, had money and gold. Bikini girl loves the jokes he told. He bought a Porsche, a boat, a half-price suit, and escort ladies who thought he was cute. He had mirrors on his ceiling, satin sheets on his bed. His mind was unreeling as this rolled through his head. He was having such a ball drinking lager and lime. Life was exciting in the world of crime. Life was exciting in the world of crime. Boom, boom, boom. Listen, if you're going to clap like this all the time, I'll never get on with the story, all right? God, this is bloody sore knocking my chest out. Then he awoke and he started to scream. He was still in the R. This was just a dream. It was quiet outside. All the cars had gone. Just the sign on the bank flashed off and on. And he stared at the sign and he stared at the stars and he thought of his life and his job in the R. And he thought to himself, I know what I can do. It can't be too hard to rob a bank or two. But how will I do it? There's no one I can ask. I haven't got a gun and I haven't got a mask. But then he turned around and saw his trousers on the bed. He ripped one leg off and he pulled it on his head and he made 3 holes for his mouth and his eyes. But he didn't have a mirror to check out his disguise, because the turn-up of the trouser was on top of Duiwel's head and where there should have been his foot was orange hair instead. So then he took some soap and a piece of wax candle and he joined them together like a barrel and a handle, and he carved the trigger with a piece of razor blade and some black boot polish that he thought really made. It looked like a gun and he held it in his hand, and Duiwel smiled because the gun felt grand. And he shouted out loud, I'll show them this time. Life is exciting in the world of crime. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. So later that night he became obsessed and he planned to rob a bank in Beaufort West. But the only little problem was a getaway car. Remember that he worked for the SAR. So he planned his escape on a train in the Karoo that left Beaufort West at 2:20 and reached the R a few hours later. Then he reached to the Cape and he jumped aboard a freighter and he'd sail away to a foreign clime. Ach ja, life would be exciting in a world of crime. So there he stood thinking, Mr. Duiwel de Wet drinking his dumpy from a 6-pack of beers. He whistled for his budgie, he called for his rat, and off they went like the 3 musketeers. So he started work as usual, stoking up the train, going through his plans and the details again. When he got to Beaufort West, he put on his sports jacket, he hid the mask and the gun in a brown paper packet. Then he strolled down the street to the bank in Beaufort West, because at 1:30 exactly, he's going to put the plan to test, because Duiwel understood that his plan depended on timing. So there he stood waiting for the church bells chiming. At 1:30 exactly, as the clock began to chime, he took his first steps into the world of crime. As he brandished the gun and demanded the money, the cashier just laughed and said, Ach, Duiwel, don't be funny. Duiwel just stood there. He didn't know what to do. She said, I see your orange hair, man, so the vet, I know it's you. But then the rat jumped off his shoulder and ran up a dress, and the budgie flew into her hair, was trying to make a nest. The cashier began screaming and was jumping all around, and a foot tramped on the button, the alarm began to sound. She fainted as the manager ran out to see the sight of a man with a gun, and in his panic and his fright gave Duiwel all the money and went down upon his knees and begged him not to shoot them, but take anything you please. Duiwel just laughed as he filled up his sack. He walked calmly out the bank, and without looking back, he pulled a mask off his head as he strolled to the station, and the train to the R didn't even keep him waiting. It was steaming at the station. It was right on time. And Duiwel through the second board was just about to climb up when the cashier came running, and her chest was heaving. She said, Duiwel, are you really leaving? Yeah, said Duiwel, looking at her figure. Beyond the R, there lies something bigger. But why don't you come with me? Join this time. I tell you, life is exciting in the world of crime. So she stood there for a minute, looking up at him, with his bright orange hair and his lopsided grin. And she turned to the station, and she turned to the track, and she looked at the town, and then she looked back, and she reached out her hand, and he pulled her on the train. And they steamed into the sunset, and were never seen again. Just a postcard comes from time to time. It says, life is exciting in the world of crime.